And we are now
Yes,
live.
we are live. Hey, hey, all right. For those who are in our Zoom call, all right. Wait, hold on. Sorry. All right. So there. Naririnig ko yung sarili ko dun sa live stream. Sorry. All right. For those who are joining us on Zoom, please keep in mind to keep your audios on mute and also your cameras are off as well. So thank you for that. And so we'll start. Um, hey, Nikki, let's do it. Let's start.
So we are now live. Welcome to A Day in the Life of a Work from Home Pythonista, episode 6. Uh, so for our participants, thank you so much for attending this show. I'm your host, and
Uh, so Nikki and Matt, sorry, and we are both members of the Python Philippines Board of Trustees. So a day in the life of a work from home Pythonista is a monthly virtual webinar talk show series where we interview Pythonistas representing various roles from developers, CTOs, data scientists, QA, network engineer, scientists, educators, among many others. And this is to give people in the community an insight of what a typical workday looks like for these people. Hopefully, this would also serve as an inspiration and give a sense of community, especially for most of us who are working from home. So, Mickey,
so I'm just gonna introduce the show format. The first part is uh, the speaker's presentation and a virtual tour of the speaker's work area at home and tools. And then the main talk show. The talk show, for the talk show part, it's a Q&A with the hosts and with us and the audience. We can ask Sir Val anything we want. Uh, yeah, and then put it on the chat. So we will just read it for you. I mean, we will read the questions for you. Um, And before we start, we'd like to thank our sponsor, FactSet Philippines, for making this show possible. They're a strong supporter of diversity and inclusion in their company. They're also hiring Python software engineers. So for those who are looking for jobs, please go check their job listing at python.ph/jobs.
right, our guest for today is Professor Val Randolf Madrid. He's a computer science professor at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Laguna. Sir Val is a computer scientist specializing in machine learning and computer vision from UPLB. He is working on several interdisciplinary projects, such as developing phenotyping tools for eggplant research and wood chip identification, and classification for forestry research. He is a recent Python convert and trains his son in the ways of the force in his spare time. So very interesting. Also being in UP itself, like it's a very natural place to be. So Sir Val, can you give us a walkthrough of your like work setup and give us a glimpse of what your day typically looks like? So on to you, sir. You can also like start sharing your screen.
Suggest that. Okay. Hi, my name is Val Randolf Madrid, and thank you to the host for making me your guest for today. So, this is my home. I am from UPLB, and if you look at the picture, my house is somewhere nestled at the foot of the mountains, where there's lots of trees, vines, snakes, and the occasional wildlife that we see, like lizards, but no swamp. So it's kind of like Dagoba without the swamp. So this is this is the UPLB campus. This is the front gate, and this is my home institute. I am from the Institute of Computer Science in UP Los Baños, and I'm here to present my talk on my work from home. This is so as a day in the life of a work from home Pythonista. So unfortunately, I cannot give you a virtual tour of my house since I am living with my kid, and you know how it goes with their children in the house. So I'll just give you a my workspace. I have two workspaces. One is this is from one of my projects, so I had to bring it home because we cannot go into the lab anymore. So I have a workstation, an Asus workstation. It's where we do our machine learning crunching, number crunching. So this is downstairs, and here where I am talking is upstairs. I have a desk. This is my main programming laptop, and this is my favorite Telo drone for machine vision or machine learning, computer vision. There's a mini projects, and I have an old laptop we also use for number crunching. So these are my research tools and my programming zone. Okay. So first, I am a C programmer. I do C++ development. I create computer vision algorithms and implement them and test them. And C is a very good language if you want to tweak to get more bang for the buck for your memory, in creating custom data structure, and so on. So for a long time, I am comfortable with C++, and I write libraries for it. So this is an example of my neural network library that I wrote in C using the an external C library for artificial neural network. But I run into trouble lately because if you want to show the results of your program, for example, I do image processing a lot, and I need to see what happens in the picture. It's very difficult to do that in C. So I came across Python. Oh, it's and I'm not comfortable with high-end GUI based programming. So I still like to do the old school, line by line execute. And this is how I came to know and love Python. Okay, so I still love C. C is my C is the C language, C++ language is like still my first love. But I needed something to wrap it up so I can easily see the fruits of my labor. And this is where I really find Python programming to be truly, truly wonderful. Especially this feature, the virtual environment. The virtual environment for Python really saves me a lot of work, especially if you want to lock down certain versions, the libraries that you want to pull and want to use in your programs. So this is what got me hooked on Python. And as an educator and researcher, this is what my typical workday goes. So I have Zoom classes because of the cursed pandemic. I now have to meet my students through Zoom. In UP, they acquired an academic license, so we have to do Zoom meetings. It's like as the meme goes, it's like doing seance or spirit of the glass. You always tell, Vincent, are you there? Paramdam ka naman. So something like that. So we do a lot of that Zoom classes, and then I have also Zoom research. So I do meet my research team. So I have projects here and there. So I meet them from time to time, also through Zoom. And in my lab, this is what we do since I do interdisciplinary research. For example, on the lower left, we are helping the Institute of Plant Breeding here in UPLB to quickly phenotype their eggplant samples. So phenotyping is just getting physical characteristics. So in this example, we just have to, they normally count this manually to check if how many trichomes or the hair-like projections in a particular eggplant leaf image. So what my lab does is to automate these things, and found it's very easy and very intuitive to do it in Python. Although we still customize or we create C libraries to modify or change some settings, but we load it up into our Python programs. And this here, the low right, is what we developed. Python is a very extensive class for machine learning, especially machine learning and computer vision, TensorFlow, and this wrapper class Keras. So, but Keras is still, you have to very easy to download models, BGG, ResNet, Inception. In my lab, we are also developing tools for non-programmers and non-computer science majors rather. So here, we build using Python, although this is very crude. I asked one of my students to help me build a wrapper for the Keras library. So a GUI-based wrapper. So if you want to create, if you have the images to train an AI to detect classes in those images, all you have to do is provide the images and just point and click using the default settings. So you can also evaluate your model through a GUI interface. So we are implementing this using Python now. So this is my typical what happens in my workday. Now, how do I balance or what I do for fun? Well, I unofficially cosplay. Before the pandemic, during my classes, in my exams rather, in my final exams in my comsci classes, I require my students to dress up. So I used to often dress up as my favorite Jedi Master Obi-Wan and my Padawan. So we usually play outside. So you can see the backdrop. This is in forestry, and our house is our apartment is in the forestry college, near the College of Forestry in UPLB. So we have lots of trees. So we do things outside, and I also like to hammer the ivory keys. This is also a great distressor for me when to hammer things in the piano, not in the electronic keyboard because they're soft. Cannot hammer them and make the noise or the music louder. So here's an example. When my son's online classes, he had an assignment in his music to sing and create a video of him singing. So I told him, why not we dress up and sing one of our favorite Star Wars parody song, if you're familiar with Weird Al. So I just pay a few seconds.
Oh, hindi yata namin naririnig, sir, yung audio.
Wait. If you cannot hear the audio, how do I change that? Okay, yes. Share sound. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Sorry for that. Let me backtrack a bit. Okay. Okay. So I guess that's it for my talk. That's it for my talk. So thank you. Oh wait, why is it saying it's paused?
Yeah. Hindi yata, sir, na-play yung audio, but this is very interesting.
Sige, it's okay. It's okay na lang. I already shared the audio, but I'm not sure if you heard it.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. I guess technology is failing us at this point, so it's okay.
Okay, yeah. It's okay, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Failure ni
Hindi
Zoom.
nyo narinig. Okay. So, my
It's
bad,
fine
yeah.
though. Very interesting setup, and I really like the whole what's very refreshing here is the whole cosplay thing. I mean, di ba parang sobrang cool na parang, oh, yung prof ko is actually into this. Because I was just recently reading, and I'm still in the first couple of chapters, yung book ni Adam Savage, yung Every Tool's a Hammer. And he mentioned there that his main passion before he did the whole Mythbuster thing, or before he got known for Mythbuster, he was always into cosplay, even as a very young kid. So yeah, it was that parang okay, bigla sumakto when you mentioned you're into when you're into that as well. Wow, very interesting, sir.
Actually, for me, it helps in the mental health aspect. You get to play somebody else, so it relieves you of the pressure to be always be yourself all the time. So
For sure.
you get to play something else. So yeah, it helps me. It helps keep me sane.
Yeah, it's very good. Oo nga, di ba? Parang role-playing game siya eh, parang
Yeah.
ganyan. But just actually getting into the character. So, I get it. I like it. Sige, we can start with the questions. Again, for those who are on Zoom or on YouTube, you can start posting in your questions, but we'll start since kami yung host, una kami magtanong kay Sir Val. Just also guys, those who are watching, when you as you think of questions, just post them as we go along, and then we'll call out your questions. So we'll start with Miki. So Miki, do you have you can start with your questions to Sir.
So nung nakita ko na si Sir Val, computer science prof, na-excite akong itanong kasi I'm not an educator, but on sometimes parang kailangan kong magturo. So I wanna ask Sir Val, what's the difference between computer science and IT courses? I get this question from bootcamp participants, and to be honest, hindi ko alam kung paano sagutin.
Well, I can only give you the unofficial version. When I was a student, we had this very crazy, difficult subject, and it's called Formal Languages and Automata Theory. And I asked my teacher before, Mom, why do you have to learn this? And told me, this is what separates computer science from information technology. And as I took up my master's, I realized that, if you look at here in my home institute in the UPLB, if you compare the programs of Masters in Information Technology and Master of Science in Computer Science, there are about 6 to 9 units of formal languages and automata theory. So I guess he was right. So yeah, you have to do this subject where a lot of us, mostly, I did not fail, but I don't know why I passed that course. But yeah, it's very difficult. If you're familiar with that, yeah, if you've read a book in formal languages, it will really make you bleed or make you cry.
Yeah. Thanks, Sir Val.
As someone who went through a BSIP course, that sounds so convoluted. Just here, just the term itself, Para wow. May ano ba sir, may konting friction ba between IT students and CS students na parang mas hardcore kami compared sa inyo, parang ganyan.
Well, I get to hear that a lot, but as an educator, usually, it's apples and oranges, di ba? IT people, you are like mining engineers. Instead of looking for oil or other precious metals, you process what is now called the new oil, di ba? In the new industrial revolution is data. You do whatever it takes to manage, make money out of it, or process data into information. Well, computer science, we help make those things happen, but most of pure computer science is actually dealing with mostly philosophical and mathematical questions like what is the limit between what's the limit of computability? When does something becomes computable and when does something not computable? Or you ask how can you give machines the image of man, or how do you create something in your image? Yeah, that's already waxing philosophy, but yeah, that's what computer science is all about. So I am somewhere in between. I am not into the hardcore formal automata, but I'm not also into too IT. I more in between.
Interesting. Interesting. So parang, yeah, so it sounds like as a comp sci, that's also something that I've always kasi since I didn't take comp sci, I took IT directly. So it sounds like as a computer scientist, you really deal with the science behind things, like creating and finding new knowledge, parang ganyan. And then as IT students or at least other types of other parang variations ng comp sci courses like IT or management for MIS. Sounds like ang focus more is utilizing
Utilizing whatever is available. Yeah.
the given technology that we have now. Interesting insights there. We have a question from Mr. Valdez. How do you wait, yeah, I think I'll first ask his I'll get his first question. How do you handle Zoom fatigue with your students?
That's a very difficult question. I usually ask their permission. Here in UP, we are now frowning upon synchronous classes. So just ask if they're available for meetings. And usually I tell them if they're, when is their freest time. And we don't require them to turn on the video. It's actually very difficult for the teacher. Like I have mentioned before, it's like doing Spirit of the Glass or a seance session. Hey, Matt, are you there? Magparamdam ka naman. Yan. So we don't know if they're going outside or it's really so what I lately what I required from them that does not violate the memorandum of UP is to put a face in their Zoom account. So if they're not turn on their camera, it could be an anime or it could be anything, as long as I see something that's not black screen or dark gray screen.
That's an interesting proposal. Yeah, exactly. Because I was just running a class earlier before our call, and ganun nga yung feels ko. Para I was trying to elicit a response, and you get nothing. So,
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting. All right, so we have a lot of interesting questions actually from the audience. How about you, Miki? About you can choose a question from our list or get one from the audience.
Sige, pipiling.
Sorry, I think I'm gonna post one. It was sent to me as a direct message kasi, so you might not be able to read it. Hold on. You might wanna consider this question then. Hold on. Ayaw magpa-copy. Ayun, copy. Ayan. How about this one? So this was a question from... sige, ako na lang muna for this one. Ay, mali pala. Sorry. Okay, later. There was a question from Thea. Curious, sir, why did you choose a life in the academy rather than go to the private sector? P.S. Hi, sir. I was one of your IT1 students.
Wow, I think that's a long time ago. We've already phased out IT1. Means it's no longer offered as a subject. So, well, in my third year in college, we had practicum. I got the taste of doing industry work, and you get to go 8 to 5 and do the same things over and over and over and over again. I guess it's just not for me. Some people like to do that, but it's not for me. I like to, to daydream on things. So you cannot do that when you're working in the industry. But in the academy, you get to have a lot of time to do a lot of daydreaming. So yeah, I stayed in the academy. And I like to teach. I like teaching. And I like, before the pandemic, I like to see the reaction of my students when I scare them. Yeah, just kidding. I'm not a terror prof. But yeah, I tend to see the reactions of the kids. It's really and to see them respond quickly to, if you said something cool or said something awesome and then their faces light up, that's good enough for me. Nothing lights up that eyes.
Gusto ko yun, yung it's like you're being paid to daydream and you do what you like, yung see the reactions of your students when they learn something new.
Okay. Nikki, how about do you want to choose or ask the next question?
Yeah. So one question is, what tools do you, one question from Mr. Valdez, again, what tools do you and your students use for online code collaboration?
I usually assign a tech member of my research team kasi medyo naiwanan na ako ng mga software collaboration tool, but I still manage them and I listen to them. They're using GitHub, and I think we use Slack. Yeah, we Slack. Quickly manage, to talk about the project, and yeah, I think I feel like a boomer when it comes to software engineering tools. So, but yeah, I'm learning.
Okay naman, sir. Yun nga, yung medyo latest naman yung mga technology. I mean, yun pa rin din ng mga gamit namin. Slack, kalimutan ko kung ano yung isa. Pero yun, familiar pa rin naman.
Actually, I recruit into my research lab yung mga ganun estudyante na yung may maalam sa ganun or so minsan i-suggest like, oh sir, let's use I think this is the first time I heard Sprint, yung mga Epic, yung
Yeah.
this Japanese sounding word,
Kanban.
Kanban, yeah. So
Yeah.
and then you have this stories, and then okay, this is interesting. Okay, yeah, I am also learning.
That's good. Sir, we have a anonymous question here. I'm not very familiar with this soil question, but I think you probably are. What is the future of interdisciplinary higher education, especially with computer science?
Well, that's a tough question, but we have meetings for that here because of the jobs that are available now, or the courses that you might think that you need to get jobs now may no longer be, or maybe obsolete in the next 5 to 10 years. That's how quickly the technology changes. So I think the future is interdisciplinary. You can no longer be pure computer science or pure IT. You have to mix them a lot. For example, I work with marine scientists, so to develop systems for them to apply computer vision in classifying coral reef beds, to quickly, for them to do their tasks quickly. So I think you have to adapt. So I think we are meeting, I think, every 5 years to change the curriculum. But rest assured, computer science and IT will not be obsolete. I think we'll be here for quite a long time. But other courses, I think they need to collaborate with us. I mean, di ba? If you look at the trend nowadays, everything has to do with tech. Whether you're an oil engineer, you're a soil scientist, whether you're in agriculture, precision agriculture, you need a lot of drones. You need IT people and ComSci people to work it for you. Satellite imagery, you need ComSci people and a lot of other fields. And one of the popular programming languages for that is Python. So yeah, this is very apt.
Very interesting insight, ano, parang, or it also begs to, it begs one to think na possible na in the future there could be even more hybrid courses,
Yeah.
perhaps, or it
We'll
also,
be seeing a lot of weird courses. Yeah.
diba? Or perhaps parang lahat ba ng students in the future, sir, pwedeng maging more like specialists talaga yung track with, every course will now have a bent, a certain leaning towards programming. As
It's like a lifelong skill. Yeah. Right now, you need it.
Um, there's another question here, sir. How do you manage your passion projects or hobby projects? And I would also like to add dun sa question na yun, bukod sa how do you manage it, what is your current hobby project then?
Well, my current hobby project is drones. So I like playing with drones, and then I realized that there's a Python library for my Tello. Yeah, I bought a 5,000 peso drone just for we can practice. Yeah, and the good thing in the academy is it's not that I get bored easily, but I also have other ideas. So once I do a drone, I said, what can I do with this? So they could apply real-time tracking using YOLO, and then I could give it to my student as his thesis or special problem. So for the nitty-gritty details, I give it to my students. So if someone will make me his or her advisor, okay, do work on this, and interesting. So I learn a lot. But I started, but it's usually connected with my work too. So with my interdisciplinary research. So when I meet with people from agriculture or from forestry, and then they talk, then I would scribble something in my notebook that what if, and I would go start. And if I said, this is too much work, I give it to give it to one of my students. That's the good thing in the academy. We have free source of labor.
Ang funny lang, sir, na nabanggit niyo yan, parang I remember someone before na parang who thought about bakit ka magjo-join sa mga school or ganyan, parang free labor lang ba sila naman. Parang ang idea niya, pero when they got to the professional scene and then joined professional communities like Python PH, hindi naman, parang it's really more of an extension of previous passion niya for doing volunteer work. And pero yeah, that's pero ganun nga, parang as teacher, that's an interesting thing. You actually work with your students. Sounds like it's a lifelong give and take of new learning or new discoveries between you as a teacher and your students. Then that's a very interesting.
I get to learn something, and they get to graduate. So yeah, we need to pay them, but we improve our lab. We write papers, we publish them, and they get to graduate. So all in all, everybody's happy.
Parang it's a win-win situation for everyone.
It's like the theme if you read PhD comics, there's this comics about PhD life, so something like that. Grad students, especially grad students. I love grad students.
PIL, PhD comics. Ang familiar lang kasi sa circle namin as engineers is yung XKCD, which is typically mga meme life din yun for
programmer developers. May nakita na ako ganun.
Mickey, how about you choose another question for us?
Sige. Pero before I ask the next question, gusto ko lang mag-react ng konti. I'm having fun dito sa interview na to kasi parang I feel like a kid again dahil dun sa mga kinakwento ni Sir Val. But for the next question is, Sir Val earlier mentioned Keras. What's that?
Keras, it's a wonderful Python library. that makes it easier to it encapsulates or wraps a lot of the nitty-gritty details in building neural networks. So I think I forget the name, the guy who made that library. His name sounds like French, Francois something. But yeah, it would help you create your own neural nets fairly quickly. Right now, the new version of Keras, you can just download the model, even the pre-trained weights. All you have to do is just write the code in Python, customize your layers, and then feed in your images. But in our lab, we simplified that further. We created a GUI program for building Keras models. So you don't have to, if you're a non-Python programmer, you don't need to learn Python to analyze your images. All you have to do is uh, reuse it.
Okay, thank you for that, Sir Val. Matt, ikaw na, no?
Yeah. Um, I also remember, sir, you mentioned earlier, so your first love ninyo na programming language is C. And then later on you found out that there's like a few things that sobrang hassle gawin with C na ang daling gamitin kay Python. But still, you continue on working on your C libraries kasi yeah, if you really want to get down to the bare metals and really maximize your computing power, you want to use C. Have you tried utilizing some Python bindings to call your C functions? Have you
Yeah, I
started
use
exploring
Python
those?
bindings. Yeah, I use Python bindings. Before I use C bindings for I used to use C++ to to visualize my C libraries. But when I saw Python, Python is less words,
Yes.
simpler, yeah, shorter code. So okay, I switched to Python. Yeah, but I think there are many libraries. When I was researching before, there are many libraries, but I think I used PyBind. PyBind. Yeah, I don't remember anymore, but very simple, very easy to import your .dlls or your .sos, the lib.sos. So
Nice. Oh, good, good. Kasi that's definitely one of the things na parang lagi ko rin sinasabi with those who wanted to transition towards Python, who are kind of like used to C rin, parang, yeah, you can use your C libraries. And yeah, I mean, Sir Val is doing that exactly. Especially for machine learning, sir, no? Parang mas okay talaga so far. And I'm sure yung mga C libraries din naman, yung mga Python libraries are actually coded in C itself.
yeah,
And then,
I think that the lower layer of Python is C. But I still like to mess things up with. So that's why I like to write my own C libraries or C programs, small programs. For example, implementing this algorithm, a particular image, then I wrap it up and then call it from Python. It's very simple, much simpler. But I still like the old school non-GUI line by line type of Python. So I've tried C++, and I don't want to go to Visual Studio to it's a bit of an overkill. I just want to test to see how my program looks like or did it really work. So yeah, I think Python. I'm liking Python.
oh, good to know. So perhaps we'll just choose a couple more questions and then we can do the wrap up. All right. Okay, I have another question here from Gabriel Torres. By the way, earlier when I asked about your hobby projects, that question was from Albert Yumal. So I just forgot to mention who asked it. So Gabriel Torres is now asking, do you collaborate closely with the industry? If so, which industries have you had projects with and what kind?
Right now, I haven't had any collaboration with just the tech industry, but I have collaborations with NGOs such as Fishright for helping our oceans, marine science. I mostly collaborate with non-tech So with the Institute of Plant Breeding, with forestry. So wala masyado. I haven't. Although yeah, I think maybe through my students, through their practicum, we could collaborate on things. But so far, mostly non-tech industry ang aming collaboration.
Thanks. Oh, which is exactly what I mean, being I think na-embody niya ang whole idea of being software of computer science or technology in a way. Parang it's really answering or helping out ano mo yun, parang yung mga non-tech. I mean, technology itself parang wala talaga siyang purpose kung wala siya sinasolve na problem. And this is
That's
exactly what interdisciplinary practices that you are doing is doing. Exactly. Yeah. So it's very good. Mickey, how about you? Can you find can you ask the last questions either from me or from the audience?
Yeah. One question from wait, dalawa yung question. Pili na lang akong isa. Sige, yung isa na lang. Yung kay last question from Vicente Reyes. What projects can you do with machine learning?
Interesting question. It's one of the reasons why I jumped into machine learning. Humans are basically lazy. We have good hardware and software here, but we don't like to do the tedious tasks, like the mundane tedious tasks. So we like to automate things. And if you have a problem that might require automation, you might as well go into machine learning. It's like teaching an assistant. This is called machine learning. You teach somebody else to do it, so you can be free to think about other things. That's what a scientist is all about. Even in our talks with say agriculture, the idea of a farmer, if you ask people to draw what is a farmer, and they would see someone carrying sacks, and then one of the professors they said, no, that's not a farmer, that's a laborer. So we use technology to do the mundane task for us while we are free to think about space travel or faster than light. Yeah, because our greatest weapon is our mind. It's like if you are stuck with, oh, why do I need to do this? Why do I need to do this? Why not automate it? I can do something else. There's this, I don't know if it's true, but there's this quote about attributed to Bill Gates when he said, I'd rather hire a lazy programmer because a lazy programmer will always find an easy way to do things. So he can do something else. So I think that's the that's the funny way. But yeah, it's the reality. For me, AI is not like the AI you see in the movies where they will rise up and kill all humans. AI is mostly teaching them to assist humans so we can stick to the deeper questions that would make our lives better. Yes, I think that's what I use machine learning for. So like for example, in IPB, they look at the microscope and count how many trichomes are there, the next image, and then they do that for 100 replications. And each replication has 1,000 images of different eggplant varieties. So if you're a plant breeder and you want to think about in what ways can I eliminate this particular gene, or can I make this particular talong resist this particular pest without introducing an external gene, you cannot think about that because you're stuck with you have wasted your time counting all the trichomes in the image. So this is where we come in. So to free ourselves.
Thank you, Sir Val, for that answer. Nagpasalamat din po pala yung nag-ask ng question. Tapos natawa rin siya dun sa part na yung when you said yung quote ni Bill Gates.
Yeah, I think I remember reading about that. I'm not sure. It's there are fact checkers everywhere. So disclaimer, usual disclaimer. Para anecdotal siya. I read it somewhere.
Tama nga, yun din yata yung pagkakaalala ko if tama rin yung nabasa ko. To wrap up, last question na pala yun, guys. But thanks everyone for asking questions. I just want to ask Sir Val, do you have any announcements to say to the participants, or like things that you want to impart to them, if not announcements?
Well, and there's this Star Wars quote, very common Star Wars quote. Well, you know what Yoda said, do or do not. There is no try. But for Python developers, do or do not, because there's Stack Overflow anyway. You can always Google it and see if it works. But yeah, always never stop asking the question, what if? That's what separates us from animals. Monkeys can make use tools. Animals can make use tools. They have intelligence. But remember, the questions that really change the world are those what if questions. Like, for example, Einstein in his theory of relativity all started with the question, what if, what will light look like if you travel alongside? And the founder of Nike, I remember, if I read it somewhere, he started his shoe business by asking the question, what if I put rubber in my mother's waffle maker? The rest is history.
Oh, hindi ko alam yung waffle maker na
Yeah.
yun.
So tinisin lang niya, yeah, he poured it out and it strengthened rubber. Rubber becomes strong when it's when it's cooked or burned. So sa tech industry, lalo sa tech, you might make the next big tech, next technology. So always ask the question, what if, what if, what if?
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you,
It's
Sir Val.
very, I don't know, parang yung, it's, what seems like what really separates us is yung ability natin to reflect on the whys and the hows. Wow. So very powerful advice from Sir Val, right there. So I have one more announcement to make for everyone. So those who are watching and listening, we are calling for sponsors for our webinar. So if your company is interested, please send us an email at info@python.ph. So this would help us a long way. That would help a long way in supporting the org. And we can bring in more shows like this one for everyone. So yeah. Right, Mickey, closing remarks.
Sige. Thank you again, everyone, for attending our show today. That's all we have for today. Again, thank you so much, Sir Val, for accepting our invitation. Medyo marami akong i-google mamaya ng mga na-share. Nyari yung waffle maker, hindi ko alam yun. We'd also like to thank all the participants that we have here today. See you at the next episode of Python PH, a day in the life of a work from home Pythonista. For next month pala, we will be having a special show. So instead of interviewing Pythonistas, we're gonna interview people who use both Python and AWS. So we're gonna tweak the title a bit. So instead of a day in the life of a work from home Pythonista, it's a day in the life of a work from home cloud developer. So medyo exciting, guys, no? It's a partnership between Python PH and AWS Users Group Philippines.
Also in line with that, I'd like to do a shout out to our participants on Zoom. So shout out to Albert Yumal, Anton Rafael Orpilia, Charity Benignos, Gabriel Torres, Lee Magnaye, Kristen Sangalang, Marco Colado of Max Group Sync. Wow, may advertisement pa there. So Nicho, Stephanie Vargas, Thea, and Vicente Reyes, thank you for joining us here on Zoom. Over at YouTube, Mr. Valdez, Von Louis, Ange, Lawrence Rebadulia, thank you all for participating. And there's also Vanig Bermudez, He's also on YouTube. So
Angelica.
yeah, I'm yeah. All right. So thanks everyone, and again, thanks again, Sir Val, for spending this time with us.
Yes, great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Right.
Thank
All right.
you.
That's it. Thank you, everyone.